Hello boys and girls of the world, and welcome back to Merce Life. Today's video is going to be talking about what to expect your first semester. Of course, again, every situation is going to be different for your school, so this is just personal experiences. So my first week of nursing school was orientation. They had an open night ceremony where we walked around the campus. They showed us where we're going to have our simulations, where some of our front loading will be taking place, and introduce us to some of the first semester staff. Our first actual day, we went in, we registered on Elsevier, we got our online books, and they showed us how to use the website and how to access all the materials we're going to be using for our first semester. So after that, we went ahead and started our front loading, which is basically consisting of basically shoving 16 skills down our throats in 2 weeks. So they showed you 1 week and then you had to perform them the next week. So for coming in with no experience whatsoever, doing something like that was nerve-wracking. Like, I just wanted to jump out the window, call it a day, like change my major. I didn't think I was going to be able to do it, because on these skills checklists, it's literally a checklist. You have all these little steps that you have to complete in order for you to be successful in passing that skill. So 16 of them are basically learning them in a week, and then having to do them was hard. But a lot of people from the previous semester had told us, you can get through it. Obviously, it's possible. We're here. So just take it slow and really think about it, and everything's going to fall into place. And when you really sit down and think about it logically, like, it all just flowed together. So, and then they also gave us a partner to help us feel more confident and feel more comfortable. So that was great. So after performing that and we got getting through it, we started our clinical, which is the reason why they made front loading so hard, is because they wanted to get us into the clinical setting as soon as possible. So they wanted us to know the basics, like taking vitals, how to feed a patient, emptying out their Foley catheters. So basically all the basic stuff that usually like CNA work would do, PCT, so stuff like that. That's what they wanted us to know, so then we can go straight into clinicals. So when we did start our clinicals, it was, like I said, about, I want to say 3 weeks after front loading. Well, after the first day of class, we got our assignments, where we're going, what we're going to be doing. And at my school, we do acute care and long-term care. So I started in acute care, which was at a hospital, and basically doing vitals, bed bath, learning therapeutic communication, knowing how to ambulate. So as the semester went on, we started to learn more skills that we could perform. Now, I preferred acute care just because you're in the hospital setting, and you're using every single skill you're learning. When I went to my long-term care, I feel like it was more limited on what we could do, just because, there's not so much nursing diagnosis you can do at a long-term care, because, that's where they are. They're basically there to retire and live out the rest of their life. At the hospital, they're there for a certain situation. There's a problem going on with them, and they need care. More critical care than you would at a long-term care. A long-term care for me, I thought, was basically medications, passing out meds, which is basically what we did our whole time there, was passing out medications, doing injections. So it was a good and bad thing. Good thing that we got to master injections, which was my biggest fear starting the program. I didn't think I was going to be able to do it, but I did it. And bad thing is we weren't able to use all the skills we had learned. So my biggest advice for you when you're in your clinicals, make sure you are using every skill you've learned, because you don't want to forget something and then when you get asked to do it, end up doing it wrong. So make sure you master that. make sure you're taking the time to know what medications you're giving out. Look up the dosage amount for adults, for geriatrics, because there is a difference. And make sure you're giving the right dose and always double verify with another RN. If it's a high alert medication like insulin, heparin, make sure you're getting that checked. And make sure you're following directions. I know sometimes we start to feel comfortable and we feel like we know what we're doing and we want to go out on our own because we don't want to have someone over our shoulder. But this is, you're dealing with someone's life, so you want to make sure you're doing everything right. You want to make sure you're following each step. You want to make sure you're following the agency's rules and policies, and be a good nursing student. Don't get too comfortable, too confident, because we're still learning. There's so much more you have to learn in your first semester. So besides your learning the beginning skills, going to clinical, um, I want to say this classwork itself, it's it's difficult because you're learning so much stuff. Ours was based on concepts, so perfusion, gas exchange. Because for us, they told us, if you know the concept, then you will be able to find the solution. Because almost everything is similar when it's the same. So we had an introduction to concepts. Now every school will be different, but again, this is how we were learning it. So a whole bunch of concepts we had to learn. Um, we didn't do any exemplars. That's going to be more in our second semester, but they were showing us some exemplars. So like heart failure, diabetes, things like that. So definitely take notes. I know I'm a really good test taker, but nursing is a whole different ball game. You really need to know your stuff. No, it's not. I mean, you kind of can um, eliminate some options when you're taking your tests, but in nursing, most of the time they're all correct, and it's asking for which is the most correct. So it gets really tricky, and you really need to know your stuff and what steps you would take. So your ABCs, your Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you don't know what they are, definitely look them up because you will be using them often. And the nursing process. Make sure those three things you know what they mean, and you know how to use them when applying to like test questions and your patients. Also, your notes. Make sure you're organized. I'm not the most organized person. I don't keep a binder for every class, which I really should because there's times where I'm looking for something and I can't find it, and it takes me a couple minutes. Um, I made it through with one binder. How, I do not know. I honestly do not know how I made it through with one. It was like 1 inch binder. I don't know how I did it, but I did it, and I don't recommend it because I was basically setting myself up for failure if I lost something or if I needed something and I didn't have in that moment. So be more organized, have your dividers, have all the information you need to have with you at all times. We had to have a portfolio which contained like our resume, our definition of nursing, our medical stuff, just in case if we're at the hospital and they needed to verify something, we have it with us, which also contained our BLS. So keep your binders, dividers, take good notes, make sure you're not writing everything word for word. Or if you do, some people write everything word for word and then they rewrite them, breaking them down into more useful notes. Because most of the time, you'll be able to retain most of it, but then you want to rewrite notes that you feel like you're not remembering to yourself. So that works well. I usually would type them up while I'm in class, and as they're lecturing, I'm typing up my notes. So then I'm remembering more. Sometimes I even write them and then I type them out just so it's an extra repetition and it's going to stay in my head. The midterms and finals, pretty hard, but you can get through it if you have your good notes and you're actually studying. Study groups are going to be crucial when you are in the nursing program When you start your nursing program, you want to find friends. A friend is fine, but friends will take you all the way to the end. Because the chances are, if you don't know it and then that one friend that you have doesn't know it, then what are you guys going to do? But if you have more people in your group, someone's bound to know the answer and know how to explain it better to you for you to understand. So in my group, there's 6 of us, so definitely someone's going to know it. We all have our strengths and weaknesses, and we all balance each other out, which is definitely what you want in a study group. There is a website that we use to create quizzes that helped us throughout the whole semester. I will place the link down below. It's called Kahoot, and you basically can create your own quizzes, put your own answer options, and we would basically put it up on the TV and we would do it together. And we would basically all split up a concept. So we all did our own concept, and then we would take them together. So that was very helpful for us. The other students in our program saw the idea, loved it, and started to use it themselves. So it helps, and it helps you retain it better because then when you see something like a question like that similar on the test, you're going to know what the answer is. Another helpful thing would be make the time to study. You can't really retain much in 30 minutes. I usually would give myself 2 hours, take a break, 2 hours, take a break, and sometimes 4 hours would be enough. And then you just keep on going at that pace every day. Or, like I said, when you go to your study group and you guys can study a couple hours, take a break, have some talk, have some fun, study again. Because if you're going straight on, you're just studying throughout the whole night. Whatever you studied at the beginning, you're probably not going to remember. Whatever is at the end, you're probably going to remember some of it, but by that time, your attention span is just going to be done. So definitely study for 2 hours, take a break, study again. Something other people would do is flashcards. I never did them because it was just so much to write that it just wouldn't have been beneficial to me, and I would have just got tired of doing it. But some people were taking the time to write out their on index cards all the information, studying them that way. But I tried it, it just didn't work for me. When it came to skills, definitely. The skills checklist definitely helped me. I would write them out in sections and go over them that way. But for tests, it just didn't suit me. So there's so many different options for you guys to go over and really trial and error and see which one works best for you. The main test of our first semester was the HESI, which, not the entrance exam HESI, an actual HESI fundamentals. So it's a nationwide exam, 50 questions, and I believe the score was 850 to pass, which 10 times out of 9, barely anyone passes. If people do pass, it's probably 25% of the whole class of 2018 that passes. So I took it. They told us there's really no way to study for it. Basically, study for your final, and you're basically studying for the HESI. Now, when we took the HESI, nothing on there were questions we have seen before. Some of them were, but most of them were very different and things we haven't even learned yet. So it was basically cross-eliminate and go with the best thing that made sense. So people ask me, how did I get a 980? I honestly don't know. I just sat there and really broke down every question. And I thought, okay, which one should come first? Which one makes more sense? What wouldn't a nurse do in that situation? So you just want to break down the question and really ask yourself, what would a nurse do? What would you see done? What would you want done in that situation? And go through every option, because on the HESI, like I said, all the options will be right, and you have to choose which one is the most correct. So for an example, if they're saying what is the most important step for a nurse to take with a patient, taking vitals, turning them every 2 hours, putting up side rails. So obviously putting up the side rails will be the correct one because you want to prevent a fall. So the other ones were correct, but that one is the most correct. So you might see things like that on there. So just break down the question. It's really about critical thinking. It's a critical thinking test. People ask me if I studied anything. I didn't. Well, I used some of the practice questions on the Elsevier website, but nothing similar to the test. So I really don't recommend it, but you can look at it because it does help you start critical think. But again, nothing similar to the HESTE itself. So that's about it for your first semester, besides the long hours of you going to clinicals, being up super early, having to practice for your skill checkoffs, having to study for your tests, and just getting accustomed to all these new things and dealing with patients and other healthcare professionals. It's a lot and it gets stressful, so make sure you make time for you. So don't go every single day nursing because you'll get burnt out very fast. Take a day off. My days were usually Sundays Saturday nights and Sunday mornings. So Saturday nights I would go out with some family, go out to eat, go to the movies. Sundays we would have cookouts. And then Sunday nights I would focus on my skills checkoffs because I checked off on Mondays. So Sunday nights is when I would look at them, which probably wouldn't be the best thing because I would sometimes go in stress because I feel like I'm rushing into it because Monday mornings I had my clinicals. After clinicals, I would rush over to the campus by my house and then have to check off. So but make sure you schedule yourself correctly. Mine were appointments to check off, so I don't know if it's like that for everyone else, but if it is, make sure you do what's best for you and make sure you are taking care of you. You are the most important thing. If you are not well, then your patients aren't going to be well because you're not going to have the energy or the motivation to do anything. And that's about it for this video. If I missed anything for your first semester, if you want to know more about first semester, go ahead and comment down below. Follow me on Instagram.